Senate will now come to order. Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment. The clerk will call the roll.
Hello. Anderson. Ashby. Alden. Fulham. Davis. Roller. Greer. Hoven. George. Bell. Mark. Jake. Labs. Lewis. Skip. Pickford. Sams. Sanders. Santiago Cedillo. Schmidt. Spurgeon. Silkert. Tapia. Talaka. Violet. Von Cannon. Walker. Wisenant. Watley.
With the quorum being present, is there a motion to approve the Journal of August 20th, 2025 as found online? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. We are now in line for general orders at the Senate, beginning with reports from Senate leadership. Is there a representative willing to give a report on the Rules Committee? Senator Wisenant, you're recognized.
So, the Rules Committee met this Sunday, yet I did not attend. I was elected to preside over rules, but I received a message from one of the senators here tonight threatening me that I would be leaving in handcuffs if I showed up to that Rules Committee. So I left the Rules Committee. The Rules Committee did not meet. We did not look over any legislation. And with that, I yield the well.
All right. We will now hear a report from the Academics Committee. Are there any representatives present? Seeing none, we will now hear a report from the Finance Committee. Chairman Matthews, you are recognized.
Okay. So we met on Friday at 3:30 at our usual time. It was a great meeting. We discussed changes that we thought we would be making this year. Mostly we discussed the bills that did not make it to committee, but we wanted to basically get a clear vision of our positions on these bills so that by the first Treasurer's Workshop, we could basically tell orgs like this is what the funding system's gonna be looking like this year. And so we discussed those changes. If you guys have questions about that, you can let me know, but we haven't even submitted those pieces of legislation to committee yet, so we'll just wait for that as well. And yeah, we are ready and excited to be reviewing allocation requests on Friday, should any get to our step. There'll be questions.
The chairman yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Health and Safety Committee. Chairwoman Cumbie, you are recognized.
Hi everyone. So the last time we met was last Tuesday, so we haven't met since the last Senate session, but we'll be meeting tonight, and I yield to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Judiciary Committee. Chairwoman Diapolito, you're recognized.
Hey guys, Judiciary met this Tuesday at 6 o'clock where we held 2 interviews for Associate Justice at both 6 o'clock and 6:30. We found candidate Gracie Campbell not unanimously, but favorable. We found her favorable by a vote of 4-1 and Tyler Fritner unfavorable by a vote of 3-1 and 1 abstention. I also plan to keep Judiciary committee times at Tuesday on 6 o'clock because everyone that's in the committees has been available at that time. I yield my time to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Liberties and Representation Committee. Chairwoman Hopkins, you are recognized.
Hi everyone, happy Wednesday. We met on Monday at 4, which will be our new standard meeting time. So if anyone is interested in joining, that is when we will meet. We do also offer a Teams link, so I know some students have benefited from that. We talked about, we have a legislation tracker now working, so we have listed all the legislation that we have ideas for so far, and we have connected the whoever wants to sponsor them, it's cute. It's pink too, so really cool. Also, we are planning a time, not next week, but the week after that. We've been invited to do like a personal, I guess, committee-wide tour of the Anne Frank Center on campus. So we are going to have like a committee-wide meeting there that'll replace our Monday meetings. So yeah, and the biggest piece of news is that Senator Coolum stepped down as our vice chair, so we have a new vice chairman, Vice Chair Iftikhar. Yay! Woo! Okay, so that's about everything. I yield to questions.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Chairwoman Anderson, you are recognized.
Hi everyone, Powers met on Monday at 5:15. We met on Zoom and had a pretty short meeting, but we just kind of went over what we want to work on for the rest of the semester, and I'll be sending out in our committee, and if anyone else has any ideas, a legislation form just so people can put their ideas on there so we can start working on legislation and Powers. We also have a vacant Senate seat interview at 2:30 on Friday, and I yield my
Time to questions.
yeah. Guys, I just blanked, sorry.
The chairwoman yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Student Life Committee. Chairman Spurgeon, you are recognized.
We did not meet this week because we didn't have anything to discuss, but we will resume when we do have stuff to go over. Any questions?
Awesome, seeing none. Thank you. We will now hear a report from the Sustainability Committee. Chairwoman Gopal, you are recognized.
We also did not meet this week because we didn't have anything to go over, so we'll meet again once we have something to go over. And we'll also probably figure out our meeting times soon. My time to questions.
Any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Academics Committee. Chairperson Koviak, you are recognized.
Pardon the red face, y'all. I'm being late. Medical appointments. But academics, we finally have a time nailed down. Yay. It's going to be Fridays at 8, so please come by. Overall, not anything specific that we're working on. Big things if need. But we are doing a lot of stuff of looking at absences, doing things about possibly playing around with pre-professional advising, so a lot of different things. If you're interested, please come by or ask and we can get you connected. But with that, I yield my time to questions.
The chairperson yields their time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Freshman Council. Are there any representatives present? Seeing none. We're going to have freshmen soon, though, so don't worry. We will now hear a report from the Constitutional Council. Chief Justice Butcher, you are recognized.
Only order of business I have is that the Court of Impeachment shall convene at 8 p.m. on Tuesday, September 2nd in Russell 322. Yield my time to questions.
The Chief Justice yields his time to questions. Are there any questions?
8 p.m. on Tuesday, September 2nd, in Russell 322 is when the Florida impeachment shall meet.
Any other questions? Seeing none, thank you. We will now hear a report from the Speaker of the Senate. I'm recognizing myself. Hi, everybody. Happy to see you again. I do not have any updates because we didn't pass any legislation and Rules Committee did not meet. So with that, I yield my time to questions. Senator Wisnet.
So, per the codes, can you confirm that once articles of impeachment are submitted to your office, that you're required to make them public by 5 p.m. next University Day?
Yes.
So, okay, I'll lead into that. Why then, senators here, why did they know about the articles of impeachment before they were made public by your office by 5 p.m. that next day?
Because they're automatically become public as they're submitted to me. It may take a little bit of delay before I'm able to access my laptop to upload them.
So the codes are very straight. Need to all be made public at the same time. You can't choose who to make it, who to give it to, and who not to give it to. So you gave it to them, so they can have retaliatory articles of impeachment against the ones that have previously submitted.
No, that's incorrect.
That's not incorrect.
If somebody asked, I was able to provide information to them, and I made it readily available to the public as soon as I possibly could.
Okay. Well, then why did you forum bust the Senate last session? Why did you tell all these senators, leave, go to the LSC, and don't come back?
I was taking advice from my advisors under what I possibly knew. Chairwoman D'Appolito. Can you explain? It's within the senator's right to ask me questions. Any other questions for me? Awesome. Seeing none. We are now in line for a report from the student body treasurer. Treasurer Ashley Reynolds, you are recognized.
Not many updates. We have our first treasurer's workshop tomorrow in here at 6:15, so tell your friends. The form opened on Monday because that's when our original treasurer's workshop was going to be. And other than that, I just want to take this time to remind you guys that we are all students, and it is our absolute job here to be students first. And we are all at this university to get a degree, and everything other than that can take a back burner if it's student. So keep that in mind. And I yield my time to questions.
The treasurer yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. We are now in line for a report from the student body vice president. Vice President Jordan Richardson, you are recognized.
Hey all. Thank you to everybody who came out to the student board fair today. We had some pretty good engagement with a bunch of students. For freshman council, we are at 138 applications so far. So great job to Will, Abby, and my staff for getting that out and all the hard work they put in these past few months. Applications are due August 31st. So if you know any freshmen, please, 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 please let us know. We're willing to get as many as we can. Let's see. Our first SU-wide will be this next Tuesday, September 2nd at 6 p.m., which is mandatory, and we will be keeping track of attendance. So if you have an excuse, please submit it to your chief of staff 24 hours in advance, please. We're going to be taking pictures in front of the visitor center right at 6, so meet there. If you want headshots, you're more than welcome to. We're going to be doing that 30 minutes before, so show up at 5:30 instead of 6. And then after the visitor center, we'll come back here, right here in the theater. Communications, please remember to repost things on the SU Instagram. We're trying to reach as many of the student body as we can, and reposting helps a lot with that. Also, a reminder, I have a Get Big t-shirts left in my office. So if you have not picked up your t-shirt and you ordered one, please come and see me after session. With that, it's my time for questions.
The student body vice president yields his time to questions. Are there any questions?
Oh, yes. Yes, September 2nd. 6.
And also just a reminder, the normal things that wouldn't be excused for Senate are excusable for SGY, if that makes sense. Like if you have work or class, that's excusable because I don't expect you guys to be free on Tuesdays. Senator Hopkins.
So pictures are going to be at 6 at the visitor center. It's like on the horseshoe tunnel on the side. And then after that, we'll come back here and do SGY here. Which is not me, but I agree. Yes. This is professional. Any other questions? Thank you guys.
We are now in line for a report from the student body president. Are there any representatives present? You're recognized.
Hey everybody, Courtney hopes everyone's doing well. She is at her roommate's telescope ceremony today, so y'all have me in STEM. She had a good bit of meetings regarding campus safety after the events of the weekend, and so she is excited to talk to y'all next week about some of the whatever comes of that and some of the initiatives and collaboration we can do with that. We had our first cabinet meeting this week, which was a success, and we have pointed a lot of cabinet members in y'all's direction. A couple specific points is if any of y'all are interested in working on the legislation regarding improvement of active shooter protocols, let me know, and any involving mental health days, I can connect y'all with the correct cabinet members for that. Any questions?
Yield this time to questions. Seeing none, thank you. Chairwoman Diapolito? Okay. Can we please do a roll call of attendance? You could start probably, sorry.
Alogo, Anderson, Ashmore, Baldinger, Frazier, Fulham, Koviak, Creedon, Cumby, Topolito, Davis, Dorsey, Dorsnowski, Erler, Freer, Fry, Dobbin, Gay, George, Gopel, Hopkins, Hunter, Iftikhar, Jacobson, Cassetti, Keenan, Kern, Kirby, Lewis, Matthews, Wakapusia, Pickford, Sams, Sanders, Santiago Cedillo, Schmidt, Spurgeon, Silkert, Tapia, Talaka, Violet, Von Cannon, Walker, Wisenant, Watley.
Okay. We are now in line for special orders of the Senate. Are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other? The clerk will now read. This is going to be really long, just telling you guys.
A communication from the office of the student body president regarding the nomination of the following to the university committees. University Bookstore, Lennox Koviak, Anthonia Onaji Awino, Curricular and Courses, Jacob Booten, Honorary Degrees, Emma Strickland, Aronov Dawes, Instructional Development, Zoe Mason Darnell, Scholastic Standards and Petitions, Jacob Booten, Academic Responsibility, Courtney Tax, Lennox Koviak, Aronov Dawes, Antonia Anaji Awino. Honors Awards and Commissions, Miriam Tate, Jordan Richardson, Michael J. Mungo, Distinguished Professor of the Year Award, Courtney Tax, Jacob Booten, Cole Rotundo, Abby Elliott, Ansley Martin, Amelia Gay, Aronov Dawes, Registration, Doug Ruff, Jackson Wade, University 101 Academic Advisory, William Barnes, Retention, Cole Rotundo, Miriam Tate, Myron Harris, Scholarships and Financial Aid, Brooke Walker, William Barnes, University Athletics Advisory, Sam Feldman, Blatt Physical Education Center Advisory, Chandler Daly, Religious Affairs Committee, Maxwell Eisen, Veteran Services Advisory, Shivani Patel, Parking and Transit Advisory Committee, Sydney Musgrave, Sarah Branyan, Ashni Junija, University Safety, Emma Cumby, Sydney Musgrave, Health Services Committee, Rithi Ramamurthy, Meena Silwani, Ansley Martin, Ashni Junija, Disability Affairs, Sophia Sambursky, Bradley Gittins, Eleanor McMacken, SC Residency Appeals, Peyton Tumblin, Lester Lewis, Clean Carolina, Marietta Rope, Abby Gopel, President's Sustainability Council, Marietta Rope, Abby Gopel, Orientation, Harper Rice, Emma Strickland, SC Honors College Policy Committee, Courtney Tax, Owen Coulomb, Jacob Booten, Commencement Committee, Courtney Tax, University Information Technology Council, Pearson Dillon, Fred Pearson, Board of Student Publications and Communications, Matthew Fry, Addison Thornton, Jordan Richardson, Russell House Advisory Board, Emma Strickland, Courtney Tax.
The question is of the approval of the committee assignments en bloc. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The committee assignments are approved. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from Powers and Responsibilities Committee requesting a 1-week extension regarding the application of Jacob Sheridan to the position of Student Senate.
The question is of the approval of a 1-week extension for the applicant's interview. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The extension is granted. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from the Office of the Speaker of the Student Senate regarding the resignation of Caleb Donnie Lapsley and William Costello from the position of Student Senator.
Received. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from the Office of the Speaker of the Student Senate regarding the resignation of Simone Miles from the position of Speaker Pro Tempore.
Received. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from the Constitutional Council regarding the appointment of staff positions, Bailiff Dylan Seymour, Judicial Advocate Kaylee Goodrich.
Received. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
A communication from the Office of the Student Senate regarding committee assignments, David Mwakapusia, Finance Committee, Marshall Pickford, Powers and Responsibilities.
The question is of the approval of committee assignments en bloc. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The committee assignments are approved. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read?
Election of the Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate.
We are now in line for nominations for the election of the Speaker Pro Tempore of the Student Senate. The floor is now open. Are there any nominations from the floor at this time? Chairman Matthews. Senator Violette, do you accept this nomination? Are there any other nominations from the floor? Okay. Seeing none, the floor is now closed for nominations. Senator Violette, you are recognized to speak.
Hey everybody, pleasure to see you all again. My name is Daniel, for those of you who don't know me. I'm a sophomore econ major from Lexington. I'll let you know a little bit about me. My initial goal as a student senator was to engage with university parking, USCPD, and health and well-being to promote a safer Carolina. And now I want to be able to assist each and every single one of you with your incredible ideas, initiatives, and programs. As per the Constitution, I would chair 2 committees, the Delegation Steering Committee and the Rules Committee. Through both of these committees, I would like to meet with each and every single chair to ensure complete and utter transparency among all of the students in it. But if you have any questions regarding how I plan to further transparency or how I plan to interact with each committee or each delegation, the floor is yours.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, we will now move to a roll call vote on the senator. The clerk will call the roll. Senator Violette, you can sit down too.
Aloko, Anderson, Ashmore, Baldinger, Frazier, Coulomb, Koviak, Frieden, Humby, Topolito, Davis, Dorsey, Dorsnowski, Erler, Freer, Fry, Govan, Gay, George, Gopel, Hopkins, Hunter, Iftikhar, Jacobson, Cassetti, Keenan, Kern, Kirby, Lewis, Matthews, Wakapusia, Pickford, Sams, Sanders, Santiago Cedillo, Schmidt, Spurgeon, Silkert, Tapia, Talaka, Violette, Von Cannon, Walker, Wiseman, Watley.
By a vote of 43 ayes and 1 nay, the senator has been confirmed as Speaker pro tempore. Congratulations. All right. Continuing on with the special orders of the Senate, are there any letters, petitions, appointments, applications, or other the clerk will now read? Seeing no more special orders of the Senate, we are now in the motion period. Are there any motions on the floor at this time? Oh, good Lord. Okay. Where am I starting? Chairperson Koviak. Okay. There's been a motion to remove Chairperson Koviak from the Liberties and Representations Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Diapolito. The nominee needs to be confirmed to the position first. Chairwoman Diapolito. There's been a motion to confirm the nominee to the position of Associate Justice of the Constitutional Council. All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The nominee is confirmed. Chairwoman Diapolito. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Gracie, you can come down. And Elijah.
I, Gracie Campbell, do solemnly pledge to faithfully execute the office of Associate Justice, to abide by the student government constitution and codes, to uphold the fairness and integrity, to represent my constituents to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Chairwoman Hopkins. Chairwoman Diapolito. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Also, you are done. Feel free to leave, or you're welcome to watch, whatever you'd like. Okay. Chairwoman Hopkins. There's been a motion to add Chairwoman Hopkins to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Excuse me? Okay. We'll move into a roll call vote.
Aloko. Anderson. Ashmore. Baldinger. Brazier. Fulham. Koviak. Creedon. Cumbie. Topolito. Davis. Dorsey. Dorsnowski. Erler. Freer. Fry. Govan. Gay. George. Gopel. Hopkins. Hunter. Iftikhar. Jacobson. Cassetti. Keenan. Kern. Kirby. Lewis. Matthews. Wakapusia. Pickford. Sams. Sanders. Santiago Cedillo. Schmidt. Spurgeon. Silkert. Tapia. Talaka. Violette. Von Cannon. Walker. Wiseman. Watley.
First off, side conversations, minimum, please. Thank you. Second off, by a vote of 42 ayes, 1 abstention, and 1 nay, Senator Hopkins has now been moved to the Judiciary Committee. Okay. Chairwoman Gopal. There's been a motion to add Chairwoman Gopal to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairman Matthews. Right, does the sponsor find this amendment friendly or unfriendly? Okay. Seeing no objections, the amendment is now adopted. Senator Iftikhar. There's been a motion to add Senator Iftikhar to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Pickford. There's been a motion to add Senator Pickford to the Finance Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Fry. There's been a motion to add Senator Fry to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Dworzhnowski. There's been a motion to add Senator Dworzhnowski to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Hunter. Granted. Senator Lewis. All right, there's been a motion to table SBL 11735, a recommendation to enhance campus safety indefinitely. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The legislation is tabled indefinitely. Senator Gay. There's been a motion to add Senator Gay to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Jacobson. There's been a motion to add Senator Jacobson to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Pigford. There's been a motion to add Senator Pigford to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Also, Senator Pigford, just so you know, the max is 3, so now you're on 3. Senator Santiago. Granted. Senator Wakapusia. Close. There's been a motion to add the senator to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Speaker Pro Tempore Violette. There's been a motion to add the Speaker Pro Tempore to the Academics Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Keenan. Granted. Senator Jacobson. Granted. Point of information, if you are leaving for good, you have to appoint somebody as your proxy, even if you filled out a form. Like, you have to motion to appoint them as your proxy. Senator Von Cannon. There's been a motion to remove Senator Von Cannon from the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Von Cannon. There's been a motion to add Senator Von Cannon to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Davis. There's been a motion to add Senator Davis to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Chairwoman Diapolito. I'm so sorry. That was really dramatic. I did not mean to like gasp. Judiciary is, I'll be like, man, so you can take out your phones and join it. Okay. Senator Erler. There's been a motion to remove Senator Erler from the Academics Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Senator Erler. There's been a motion to add Senator Erler to the Judiciary Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Any other motions on the floor at this time? Senator Kirby. There's been a motion to add Senator Kirby to the Student Life Committee. Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Any other questions? Or motions, I'm sorry. Awesome. Seeing no more motions, is there a motion to dispense of this motion period? Is there a second? Without objection, so ordered. Is there a motion for a brief 2-minute recess so I can just amend that piece of legislation? Is there a second? Seeing no objections. Can I turn off the screen for a second, Spencer? Thank you. Okay. We are now on the call of the introduction of new legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 11732, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to transition USC dining from plastic to paper and sustainable utensils.
Senator Lewis, you are recognized to speak on this legislation.
Hey, welcome back. So yeah, basically this recommendation is asking USC Dining to go to more of a sustainability when it comes to the dining room options, so getting rid of the plastic and things like that, and switch to something that's more eco-friendly. So I talked a little bit about it last week. You know, I'm here again this week, so I talked about it again. But hopefully, my goal is working with everyone, and then Courtney's people too. Is I don't want that cheap paper. I want the good stuff in there that's going to taste right, and it's not going to food fall on the floor because we getting cheap paper plates. You know. But with that, I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Sustainability Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11733, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to transition student government operations from Google Suite to Office 365.
Senator Lewis, you are once again recognized to speak on this legislation.
Yeah, so I've had, several conversations about this one with several different people in the administration, and we all have Office 365 as a school. So it makes sense for us to be using Office 365 instead of Google Drive. I shouldn't have to go on my phone, download from Google, press download, and then try to get it switched over to Office 365. Speaking with IT, it would be better if we was with Office 365. If a file gets deleted, they can retrieve it. If it get hacked, they got the part from there. With Google, we have no management over Google. These are private accounts managing this Google Drive account. So let's not look at this personally, but as a practicality standpoint. I think that this recommendation get the conversation started. I'm for it if someone wants to amend it, and we talk about it. You know, I'm all for that, but I think we need to come to the table and really come to an agreement on this. We've been working on this a long time. With that, I yield for questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Chairwoman Diapoluto.
So I know you said you talked to advisors, but I was wondering if you talked to anyone in student government, as this is something that's happening.
Yes, I have talked to student government, and we talked, you know, me and Courtney talked about it over the summer. They have started working with their executives, but I would love for it to see extended to all student government for internal operations of us get on the one Google Drive, the OneDrive account.
So do you believe this should be a recommendation to our advisors or a conversation within student government?
This should be for both because the advisors are advising the students. And so ultimately, you know, they look for them for these tough questions and answers.
Okay, I yield.
Point of information that might be pertinent. We emailed IT today about switching over to Office 365. So we're waiting on their response. Just so everyone knows. But that was like literally today. So any other questions? Awesome. Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11734, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to establish a voting student member on the University of South Carolina Board of Trustees.
Senator Lewis, you are once again recognized.
So I'm very excited about this one. This one is something that was brought up last term, the term before that, but we are asking formally, if it passes, this recommendation to formally ask the General Assembly to allow us to have a voting member on the Board of Trustees. Right now, some of you may not know this, but Courtney's position is pretty much an advisory role. So she's asked to stay in executive session, she's asked her opinion, she's asked for a seat, but she takes no voting matters on that, you know. So if she's going to be on there, she needs to have a voting right on there so she can vote, so that that seat can vote for our students on there. And I think it's time for us to do it. Many other SEC schools have it, University of Georgia, UNC, University of Kentucky, LSU, they all are voting members. They're sworn in as full Board of Trustee members. So I think we should catch up with them and ask our General Assembly to really look at to this. With that, I yield for questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Powers and Responsibilities Committee. Continue on with the call of new legislation. The clerk will now read.
SBL 11736, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to develop a mobile application for Carolina Self-Service.
Senator Lewis, you are once again recognized.
So this is another one I'm very excited to talk about, is that having an app for Carolina One Service is going to put everything in one place. We don't have to go sign into this software or this app. It'll all be there together. And I think that it will really bring us up to date of what's going on, because we are switching to digital Carolina cards and switching to digital passes. And so we need to have everything in one app. I shouldn't have to sign in to multiple apps and do this. And I think that one thing to really say is that LSU student government asked for the same thing, and they are now getting their app just like this for registering for classes and looking at schedules and payments and everything on the app right in their phone. So I think we should really ask for the same thing and look into that. So with that, I yield for questions.
The senator yields her time to questions. Are there any questions? Chairwoman Diappolito.
Just curious, would there still be for your idea, would there still be an online website, like an app and a website, if you wanted to get on through your computer, or would it be like an app on your computer as well?
You know, I left the recommendation pretty vague for these things to the administration to kind of do their thing with it. So yeah, it would include all of that. You know, the app and the website would include all of that.
Okay, cool. Just curious. I yield.
Any other questions? Chairperson Koviak.
Hello. I just had a curiosity, and I don't necessarily, you said you left a lot of things vague, which is a good thing. But with this being said, along with how much sensitive information would be on these apps, what are you expecting, or have you really discussed this too much with administration about what security features will be present, possibly more than what there may be on a website?
Well, I would hope that there'd be enhanced security features. I mean, we already have apps right now. You know, we have the Cockpit app we use for, you know, rewards programs. So I think it wouldn't be too hard to have those same enhanced security features and make sure we're safe with the app.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Student Life Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11737.
Senator Lewis, you have one more.
Sponsored by Senator Lewis. A recommendation to conduct an evaluation of the student activity fee for the possibility of raising.
Senator Lewis, you're once again recognized. Also, you have the next one, just so you know.
So this is another recommendation. I talked to several people in administration and adult administration people about this one. But what I would say about this one is that Courtney has already been advocating for the Board of Trustees about this. But what she needs she needs some support really saying from the student body that this is what the students really want. You know, we're not trying to bankrupt any of the students here, but I mean, man, we haven't seen a raise in 10 years. You know, if you look at the other SEC schools, we're talking $1.5 million for one school. We're talking $500,000 for another school. But for us, we're barely even hitting, you know, half of those numbers. So we look at and have a true evaluation. And let me just give an update on this. The evaluation has already been done, really. So we're asking for a copy to be presented to us. And then as a Senate, we look at it and say, hey, from this evaluation, what are the next appropriate steps? And that could be they are recommending to us that we raise this, and by giving us a number. Courtney threw out several numbers, so you know I'm not going to talk about her numbers, but I have my own numbers too. But what I would say is that let's not take this personally. Let's look at this from a statistic standpoint and practicality. We need to move in the future, and to move in the future, we have to keep up with the trends. But I also would say this, that in the full board of trustee meeting they had in June, several departments asked for increases in their fees, including athletics. I do want that to be clear, to keep the tickets free. So let's not hesitate about things like that. And with that, I yield for questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Student Life Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11738, sponsored by Senator Lewis, a recommendation to expand accessible Jewish food options in university dining.
Senator Lewis, you are recognized.
So this is basically a recommendation to have more Jewish food options for our students in the dining rooms. Now, you may be thinking, why do we need this? You know, because the Jewish students need somewhere to eat. You know, they need kosher food to eat, and they need more options. They shouldn't have to eat the same thing every day. They need more options than what we're getting right now. And you know, it's a girl, and there's a young lady in student government who is part of the Jewish club, and so you know, I talked a little bit about this with her, and she said that is a problem. And so this is something I'm asking for us to do, is to have USC Dining once again asking to step up to the plate and provide for our students. And with that, I yield for questions.
Are there any questions? Senator Kirby.
I do not have a percentage on me, but let me tell you this. There's a club called Jewish Students here, and they're pretty big from my looks of the eyes of them. You know, they do several things here on campus. But I'll get with Maxwell and get numbers for you next week if that's something you need me to do for you.
All right, any other questions? Chairperson Koviak.
With this piece of legislation, I was curious on, you're talking about just in general with dining. Are you meaning specifically for options at all of our retail spots, the dining halls, the convenience stores, all of them, some of them? What are you looking at? I'm just curious.
Well, the recommendation also, it kind of leaves this door open for USC Dining to have their way. But I would, you know, thinking and talking with them, when we begin talking with them, I would want that to be for all retail and Airmark and, you know, some of the regional providers that we have here, including Chick-fil-A, to really get on board with the cooperation with us.
I yield. Thank you.
Chairwoman Diapolito.
This is a point of information. I just checked. The organization you're talking about has 97 members.
Yes.
I yield.
Like 97 members that they have. So that is almost 100 members that they have. And that's a lot of students here. You know, some probably not even members of that organization, and they want food too. So we're going to help them all out. Members or non-members, we're going to help them all out.
All right. Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Liberties and Representation Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11739, sponsored by Senators Wizen, Lapsley, and Matthews, a bill to promote student engagement at the start of the academic year.
The sponsors are recognized to speak on this legislation.
So this is a very simple bill. As student leaders, we should be advocating for our students here on campus to have events. And right now in the codes, students aren't able to have events at the start of the academic year with the way the treasurer workshops are timed, with the way the budget requests and the reimbursements are handled. They're not able to get their events funded. But with this piece of legislation, we would be able to fund retroactively student events that occur at the start of the fall semester and as well as the start of the spring semester.
Yeah, I mean, and we discussed this bill in Finance Committee, and we basically discussed adding a deadline to requesting money for these types of events, just so that if you got an event in August or very beginning of September, you can't go back and request money for that, say, in like late November or something like that. So it just makes a deadline for these types of requests, and basically says like you can request money from the first day of class until 10 university days after the first treasurer's workshop, because there's always been this awkward gap at the beginning of the fall semester where you can't fund events just because you haven't had a treasurer's workshop yet. So this bill will basically allow us to look at events that had already happened within that period, just so that as Jacob said, we could help. Yeah.
Yeah, so with SOFAB is already able to do this. They're able and have so SOFAB has already funded events at the start of this semester. So that's something that student government should look into doing. With that, field questions.
All right, the senators yield their time to questions. Chairwoman Hopkins. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11739 by unanimous consent. Is there a second? Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Yeah, it's our first piece of the year. Senator Mwakpusia? You sure? Okay, perfect. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11740, sponsored by Senators Wizen and Lapsley, a bill to prevent deceptive social media rebranding and campaign.
Senator Wisnet, you are recognized to speak on the legislation.
So this is quite a simple bill. I know we had some issues with the most recent election cycle. We had numerous campaigns with numerous violations. And one violation in particular that was by the president, who's Courtney Tax, they had a social media account, Cocky Fan Club, and they were able to campaign, they were able to build a supporter base before the official campaign period started. And this piece of legislation will make it very simple. There will be a timestamp for when the campaign period starts. So once that timestamp starts, that's when you can start making your social media. That's when you can start campaigning. Because currently in the codes, it's kind of ambiguous, whereas this will have a hard time set, so we can prevent future violations for, I say, the next election cycle. And with that, I yield to questions.
Just to confirm, Senator Wisnet, we're talking about SBL 11740, a bill to prevent deceptive social media rebranding and campaigns. Okay, I wanted to make sure. Are there any other questions? Senator George?
I actually like this bill a lot, but what plans do you have to enforce these regulations?
So for these regulations, we will be inserting a new section into the codes, and this section will be section 4330, electronic communication. And it states very simple: no individual, ticket, or campaign staff member may create or promote a social media account or digital communication channel for the purpose of preemptively building an audience or following with the intent to later convert it to a campaign account.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Judiciary Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11741, sponsored by Senators Wisenet and Lapsley, a bill to Fair Elections Enforcement Act.
Senator Wisenet, you are once again recognized.
So this is once again a bill to help remedy some of the issues that we had with the election cycle. So currently with the last election cycle, we had many campaign tickets that had election violations. And with the way the court hearings were set up, some of the results from these hearings overlap with the polling period. So let's say Courtney, her staff gets found guilty of election fraud. They get a penalty. They can't campaign for 24 hours. Well, conveniently, that result came out with 2 hours left on the clock. So with this, if violations are serious and they are going to the Constitutional Council, there will be a pause in the polling period until a verdict is made. And once that verdict is made, students will be given an opportunity to recast their vote based off of the verdict from the hearings. And with that, I yield to questions.
All right, the senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Chairperson Koviak. If y'all have some, you can also come down and stand up and I'll recognize you.
So with this overall, we talk about a pause. If there are multiple situations where this happens, while I understand a pause being necessary, are you planning to have anything written, or is it written as a current, to have a certain amount of time in pause, just because this would, depending on how long you go, delay student government function?
Yes, I definitely agree with your sentiments. And this bill is aiming to give the Constitutional Council the time they need to have due process. So yes, I am 100% willing to sit down and add an amendment, something exactly like that, to this bill.
Right. Thank you. I yield my time.
Chairwoman Diapolito.
I just want to confirm the amendment you're speaking of, would that set a hard end date? Because how could you see this ever ending? Just keep repetitively getting paused.
So your question is, what if tickets keep getting election violations, and this could have a snowball effect of a pause and opposing the period indefinitely?
Yes.
So yes, that is definitely something that needs to be amended to this bill, because I want to give the Constitutional Council enough time to be able to make verdicts without being rushed. Because I know the last cycle, we were rushed. We had hearings all the way till midnight during the polling period. And with this, they would have the time to make verdicts. Students would then be educated with their votes. So yes, I am definitely open to making amendments like that to prevent an indefinite pause on SU.
Awesome. There you go.
Senator Kirby.
To me directly, no. But based off of the last election cycle, with the timing of the hearings and the timing of the polling periods, and the numerous amounts of election violations, this is definitely something that is needed to help the Constitutional Council, to help the student body make educated votes.
Any more questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Judiciary Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11742, sponsored by Senators Wisenet and Lapsley, a bill to ensure the maintenance of an accurate and transparent legislation tracker by the Office of the Speaker.
Senator Wisenet, you're once again recognized.
So this is a very simple bill. I know we all appreciate the legislation tracker that the Speaker's office currently has, and all this is doing is it would codify that tracker within our codes. And with that, I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Chairman Matthews.
Well, my question to you is can you come to the mic so people at home can hear what you said?
To repeat the senator's question, he was wondering as though why the senator felt it needed to be codified. and had concerns about confusion, if I repeated that correctly.
Okay, so this legislation tracker is a very useful tool for all us senators to know what legislation, who's co-sponsoring it, where it's at, what are the votes, where it's at after it gets voted on. Whereas this would be a one-stop shop for both us senators as well as the student body to see where the legislation is at instead of digging through committee meetings, instead of digging through journals. This is easy access to information that will inform the student body what the student senators are doing in the Senate with the legislation. And I think the Senator Speaker would agree that this tracker is a useful tool, and this would just ensure that Senate cycles down the line would also have access to this tracker.
Chairman Matthews? Okay.
Right,
Chairperson Koviak.
So speaking of codifying this, with that being said, what exactly would you want codified for legislation tracker? Because that can be a very broad, a very simple term where it could just be mirroring what we currently are operating with, or that could be more extensive. What are you wanting more specific?
Yes, so this bill right here will be codifying the legislation tracker in the state that it is currently. Now, if you want it to be more detailed, we could add more statements here for the tracker, but I know that just lengthens our code that they're already right now.
Thank you, I yield.
Chairwoman Anderson?
Would you be open to maybe right now in the legislation it says updated within 5 days? If we're gonna put something like that in the code, would you be open to making that a little longer? Because obviously all the people who work on our speaker staff and our speaker are also students. If we're gonna put something in the code, you want it to be something that is obviously capable. Would you be open to something like that or no?
I understand we are all students here. We all have classes. We all have homework, exams. So yes, I am open to extending the deadline in which this tracker would need to be updated.
Okay, perfect.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Judiciary Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11743, sponsored by Senators Wisnet and Lapsley, a bill to end ambiguity in campaign period commencement.
Senator Wisenet, you are once again recognized.
Yes, so I'd already previously touched on this a little bit with the Cocky Fan Club. So I know like during the violations were coming in during the campaign period, nobody really knew exactly when the campaign period started. So this here would have the election commissioner shall be required to clearly define and announce the official end time of the candidates meeting before its adjournment, and this shall serve as the official reference point for determining when campaign begins. So this will help all of us. It will help future students to know, okay, at this time, campaigning starts. So this will help us avoid future violations. And with that, I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Senator Collin.
Yeah, so looking at the legislation, nothing wrong with it per se. I was just saying that when you, the portion you struck had the beginning and the end of the campaign period, the new part you added only has the beginning. So if I were to say yeah, it is have to be amended to that.
Yes, we can definitely do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Judiciary Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11744, sponsored by Senators Wisnet and Lapsley, a bill to ensure event integrity.
Senator, you're once again recognized.
Okay, so when student orgs come to us or come to SOFAB submitting budget requests to fund their events, for the reimbursement side, the university is only looking at the receipts. Did they pay? And they reimburse them. But nobody is checking to see if the events actually occurred. Nobody is checking to see if they actually occurred the way they said they were occurred. So this bill would add just one layer of verification. So this would help us avoid things like Greek Jam, and it's very easy. I know we can probably add some additional forms of verification, but the current verification that I have is at least 2 of the following forms of documentation must be provided: a digital photo clearly depicting the event in progress with verifiable details. Or they could also do a signed written statement from their student organization's faculty or staff advisor affirming that this event occurred as described. Or they could also do a post-event short one-page report submitted by the organization signed by at least 2 officers summarizing the event activities outcomes. So yes, we are, as student senators and the student government, charged with a budget, and we need to be able to handle that budget and to ensure the funds go to where the funds ought to go. So with that, I yield my time to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. I would just kind of make your way down to the mics. All right. Okay. Senator Lewis. Okay. Sorry, just recognizing him because that's interruptible. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Spurgeon as Senator Lewis's proxy. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The proxy is granted. Senator Lewis. Granted. All right. I will start with Senator George. We'll go back and forth.
So you have very publicly been against the audits of the top 5 organizations, correct? How is this any different? Intent.
How is this any different? Yes. Well, the audits are targeted at specific orgs with the threat of taking away their funding if they don't submit to the audit that was done over the summer. This is much easier, and the audits, they were requesting information that they had already had in the budget request were submitted. So this one is very simple. It's different because they get to choose between 2 pieces, just a picture, a written statement from their advisor, or just a short one-page report. Super easy to do, just a way for us to be able to verify that the events actually occurred. Does that answer your question? It does. Thank you. Okay, thank you.
Chairman Matthews.
So I get where you we operate reimbursement have to spend the money on the a lot of that is like room fees, name tag, and all sorts of other stuff that like really unless you really work. I just questioning why you think this is necessary.
Because we are so the reimbursement team, when they are making these reimbursements, they are only looking at, from the student government side, A, did they get a confirmation email from the finance chair, and B, are the receipts in the proper format? They don't look at, did the event actually occur? So this would add an extra layer of security for us to know that when a student org leader comes down and tells us they're going to have an event at this time, at this date, at this place, doing this activity, that we have some form, we have some method for verification that that is actually what occurred.
Yep. Senator Jacobson.
I believe that many clubs on campus do not have a faculty advisor, which would make them have to choose the essay option. And that one, isn't that exactly what we asked them in the outline document? That we have to require for every request made? It's the same thing.
Okay, well, if you think that is the same thing, I am definitely willing to add other options that you think would be easy for a student org to fulfill.
Yeah, because it's in the outline document, you have to explain what your event is, what you're buying, what you're doing, creative, everything. It's what the organization's putting forward, all that's in the outline document.
But the difference is that is a document that's submitted before the event actually occurs, whereas this document is after the event had occurred.
Are you trying to say that?
Senator Jacobson, I'm going to move to another questioner and then we'll come back. I'm going to recognize Chairwoman Hopkins. Just trying to shuffle things up a little bit.
I'm not trying to I guess make you call on anyone, but is this something that you think is really needed? Can we think of any modern example? Because I know you mentioned Greek Jam, but we didn't fund Greek Jam, so.
I'm going to have to remain that statement. That organization and event was funded, but more information on that would be better represented by advisors and things like that. Any questions?
Stand by what I it's really going to cause engagement. I guess I don't really understand the necessity of it if we already have other.
Could you redefine the question? I'm not understanding what you're asking.
Why do you think it's so necessary?
Because we have had orgs in the past that have had events, and they told us they would be at this room, this place, this time. And that's what they advertised. That's what they told Finance Committee. That's what they told the Senate for. And then come to find out, the event actually never occurred. And I think that is something for the Court of Impeachment to look into, not something that we're going to look into on this floor tonight.
I'm going to have to germane that statement. The Court of Impeachment relates to student government members and not student organizations and students' actions outside of student government. Senator Gopal.
So having them write a one-page thing about their event, can't they just lie about their event regardless? And then that's just putting more time under the finance committee, wasting our time.
Well, I do see where you're coming from. And of course, students are able to lie. And we have some examples where they have done that in the past. And I am definitely open to ideas on what other verification methods that we would think about implementing.
I think if it does pass, I think there should be ways of
Chairman Matthews.
That they want to use. It's also being used by us who are verify. We expect that it's kind of a check on that. I think that is sufficient, or we can really add.
Well, I was not aware that they had added a verification method to Garnet Gate. Because I had talked with Matt Hines, and he said, yes, when student orgs do get reimbursed, the only thing that the reimbursement team is looking at are the receipts. So this would add just an additional step to where we can verify that the events occurred. And as some senators have brought up tonight, maybe some of these options are too much, and I am definitely down to looking into ways to have easier, simpler ways to just verify that the event occurred.
Senator Jacobson, do you have an interruptible motion? Chairperson Koviak.
Hi. So it's kind of been addressed somewhat, but I wanted to explicitly ask it. With the nature of how this would go through, essentially, it puts a lot of a burden on smaller organizations where, especially with the aspect of having the faculty, person not necessarily being present in all orgs, that would fall a lot on the organization's executive group, essentially, which oftentimes, that may only be 2 people, could be 4, could be as many as 12. But in those organizations where there's only maybe 2, that's essentially asking students to put additional things on their plate when they're trying to just serve their student body. Is that, in your personal opinion, necessarily fair when we already have a lot of different options for checking these things in place?
Yes, for student orgs, for smaller student orgs, I can see how some of these options would be unfair, and the bill does have the option to add additional, easier options that can accommodate smaller orgs here on campus so that they could verify. I know one of our options is just a digital picture. I know the university in the past has wanted photos for their events that we're funding, and this would just be, hey, just send a photo of the event. And then that's one of the checks for your verification process.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the senator? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Finance Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11747, sponsored by Chairwoman Doppolito, a bill to revise the freshman council selection process.
Hey guys, this bill is pretty simple. Right now, it states that the freshman council has to either interview 50 applicants or 50% of their applicants.
Sorry to interrupt really quickly. There was a mistake on our end. SBL 11745 is still on the calendar. You can finish speaking. and then we'll move back. But SBL 11745, a bill to ensure funds support student events, not free merchandise, is still on the calendar, still going to be discussed in a second. Thank you. Continue.
Right? Okay.
Sorry.
I just brain fart. So yeah, either they interview 50 applicants or 50% of their applicants. I wrote this around 2 to 3 weeks ago, so I haven't gotten an updated number, but around that time, they already had 105 applicants, and they were projected to have over or around 200 applicants. So saying having 50% of those people have to be interviewed by FROCO directors could be a lot for them. And not saying it could waste time, but it could waste some time. So this bill still gives limits to FROCO directors for interviews. It just leaves the amount of interviews up to their discretion. I believe in it I wrote 50 to 100 because they need to have, or they need at least around 50 members in it. So that's where that comes from. I yield to questions.
All right, the Senator yields her time to questions. Senator Cassetti. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Gay as Senator Cassetti's proxy. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The ayes have it. The proxy is granted. Senator Cassetti. Granted. If you have an interruptible, like, point of personal privilege, can you leave your placard up? I know that it's reaching org fair time. Okay. Senator Jacobson. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Koviak as Senator Jacobson's proxy. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The proxy is granted. Senator Jacobson. Granted. Senator Brazier. There's been a motion to appoint Senator Davis as Senator Brazier's proxy. Is there a second? All those in favor say aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The proxy is granted. Senator Brazier. Granted. All right. Chairwoman Anderson. Okay.
Thank you.
Questions? Yep.
How does the selection process for freshman council go? Do you have
No, we do not have anything to do with it.
So,
They apply.
yeah, point of information. I'm doing this off the top of my head. So, there's a lot of things going on up here. So, I might be slightly wrong. My understanding is it is the freshman council directors and then at least one representative from every branch. Is that correct? Give people a nod. Okay. Yes. We have much more than that. Over the summer, if you were a member of student government, sorry you hadn't been confirmed yet. You would have filled out a form expressing your interest, and then they selected people from that. And then if this piece was to pass, that committee would be making decisions based off of those 138 applicants, how many interviews they would grant, whether that's 50, 100, 66, whichever it is. And then just kind of go from there. And then they interview them, and then they're selected.
Big Little? Yeah.
Yes. We have two different programs going on. There's like a Big Little program, so you can take little freshmen and teach them the ways of student government. And there's also going to be a shadowing program. Perhaps that's what you were thinking of, that they're going to be attending like different branches. And things. Yeah, yeah. And also like Will and Abby and Jordan would love to talk about it. So just go and find them and you can totally ask. Chairman Matthews. Okay. There's been a motion to pass SBL 11747 by unanimous consent. Is there a second? Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. Okay. We're going to go back now. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read.
SBL 11745, sponsored by Senators Wisnett, Lapsley, and Matthews, a bill to ensure funds support student events, not free merchandise.
The senators are recognized to speak on this legislation.
So, in Finance Committee, every time we have a budget request with inventoriable items, we always have to debate it because the codes are so vague. There is no clear-cut definition on what constitutes an inventoriable item. So this piece of legislation would define inventoriable promotional items as things that we will no longer be funding because we want to support our student events. We don't want to support giving out free merchandise with our student dollars just to anybody or to their own student org members. And the inventorable items that are listed here is we will t-shirts, jackets, apparel, branded merchandise, other tangible items given away as souvenirs, incentives, or advertisements. And this restriction does not apply to inventorable items that are necessary for the execution of an event. So for engineering orgs, I know a lot of their events require inventorable items. So Rocketry Club, Making Rockets, ASME. So this bill would not hurt our engineering orgs. And it also would not hurt orgs advertising through flyers or other informational material solely for event marketing. And I think Jack wants to speak on this as well.
Yeah, I agree with all that. It's a gray area. It's been tough for Finance Committee. We, on Friday, again, I know that you were not able to attend, but we actually discussed amending this and not outright banning these, but instead just adding a cap. We have not really discussed an official cap yet. We wanted to wait until the sponsor was available to discuss that as well. And so likely we'll be reviewing this again on Friday. I know you're also not able to attend that, so we might push it another week. This likely will not be getting requests like this immediately. So yeah, it's something that we will continue to discuss, but I agree with everything. It's been a gray area for a long time. You can easily warp the codes out of shape to find whatever it is you want this clause. So, yeah.
And with that, we yield to questions.
No, you're okay.
Okay. Question. Maybe. So, for example, a club like SB is part of. So there's chapters all over. So if we get, let's say, t-shirts and it has
yeah, well, we refer to it as inventorable. This bill refers to it as that, and I think it's only mentioned one other time. There is another term for it in codes. But yes, that likely, based on the decisions that the Finance Committee was making last year, that would not be allowed anyways, because that would clearly, those t-shirts would be meant to be retained by members of the club. And if an item is bought using this money that we are presiding over, university's money, it then becomes university property, and therefore would have to be stored on campus. It has to be a written note by an advisor. It's a whole thing, and that works for engineering clubs, as Jacob mentioned, because they're building model rockets and stuff like that. And the engineering college has great facilities for storing these items on campus. That's why, honestly, that is probably why all this was written in the first place, was to allow events like that to take place using this money. But it's very vague as to what is acceptable and what is not acceptable. So with your example, a shirt that is branded with the club's merchandise, Finance Committee likely, I don't want to speak for the whole committee, but in the past we have struck down items like that because it's just not feasible to find them.
President.
We have to pay that out of pocket.
For to pay for these types of items in the first place, or are you asking, like, do you need to pay for it yourself and then get reimbursed, or are you asking, like, would these items be completely gotten rid of entirely?
Like, if the organization wanted those items, would they have to, like, pay for it themselves, or is there another organization that would?
So the way that this bill is written as it is right now, you would have to pay for that entirely out of pocket. We discussed on Friday not banning these items outright, but adding, say, a $200, $250 limit to the dollar amount of such items you can purchase with this money. But as it is written right now, without any amendment, yes, you'd have to pay that completely out of pocket.
Trooper Skobiak.
So I had a thought while you guys were going over this. Would this also apply in situations where it's technically inventoriable to a degree because of the materials used? My thought was organizations essentially that are doing service, so things where they are possibly getting items to put things together, have a product they store, and then take along. Would that necessarily be applied here? Like if you're making blankets, for example?
example, with yarn.
Yes, we do have a clause that would allow if that item, inventoriable item, is necessary for the execution of the event, like you just stated, that they would be allowed to get that item.
I just want to make that clear. Thank you.
Yep, and actually I remember a specific, I don't remember what order it was, but we did a request for yarn. And because without the yarn in the funding for it, I think it was like 1,000, it was a lot of yarn. They were gonna be making a lot of blankets. Without our money, they would not have been able to hold their events, so we just.
Any other questions? Seeing none, this legislation is now referred to the Finance Committee. Continuing on with the call of new legislation, the clerk will now read. Hearing none, we are now on the call of the uncontested calendar. The clerk will now read. Hearing none, we are now on the call of the contested calendar. The clerk will now read.
SBL 11746, sponsored by the Finance Committee, a bill to implement the guidelines for funding allocation.
Hello, everybody. Long time no see. So I went over this bill with everybody last week. Me and Ashley had the presentation up here. But essentially, this bill would codify this new set of guidelines to outline the framework, the decision-making framework that the Finance Committee would be making moving forward. Finance Committee, obviously these guidelines, Ashley has put them together. They don't officially exist yet, but we did review a document that, was the guidelines, just not officially the guidelines, and the committee came to a consensus that we are good to go and are ready to vote on the guidelines should this bill pass here today. And with that, I yield to questions.
The senator yields his time to questions. Are there any questions? Chairwoman Hopkins? There's been a motion to pass SBL 11746 by unanimous consent. Is there a second? Seeing no objections, this legislation is now adopted. All right, continuing on with the call of contested legislation, the clerk will now read. Hearing none, we are now in line for a period of open discussion. Does any senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? Senator Wakapusia?
I believe it was the first bill. I just wanted to ask about the treasurer workshops they were speaking about. Forgot exactly what
No, it's okay. I could probably answer if somebody could really loudly whisper the answer about when the treasurer's workshop is. The treasurer's workshop is tomorrow night, 6. Oh. Oh. Yeah. Okay. Any other? I'm trying to remember my language. Does any other senator wish to bring a matter of attention to the body? Awesome. Seeing none. We are now in line for a period of announcements. Are there any announcements from the floor? Okay. Oh, Chairwoman Diapolito. questions? Do you yield to questions? Are there any questions? We only recognize senators during this time. Yeah, yeah. But I'm sure Chairwoman Diapolito would love to chit chat with you as soon as Senate's done. Any other announcements from the floor? No. Okay. I have like a few quick ones. Chairwoman Diapolito just went over this, but it's probably going to be a busy day for you guys on Tuesday. Once again, if you like have work or class or something like that on Tuesday, that is an excused absence. I would love to work with you. Please email Addison or submit a proxy form on Garnegate and we'll let you know. When it comes to the court of impeachment, I have no role in that and I am not in charge of that. So even though I love to answer your guys' questions, I don't know the answers. I'm not in charge of that. Please direct them to either an advisor or a chief justice and they'll be able to happily direct you in the right place. But like, that's just not me. Please continue to submit legislation. If you guys have any questions, please always let me know. I love working with you guys. I'm really excited to be back. And with that, I yield my time to questions. Are there any questions? Awesome. Seeing none, is there a motion to adjourn? Is there a second? Without objection, the Senate will now stand adjourned until Wednesday, September 3rd, 2025.